All right. I'm Jessica, and this is June. And we would like to welcome you to the 15th constellation. We are so happy to bring together these readers. Happy to gather all of you. Whose first time is it here tonight? We're so glad to have you here, and we invite you to come back. And also thanks to everyone in the live stream. And thanks to our COVID policy, which is we mask in this space and then upstairs it's mask optional. If you need one, they're by the door. And to acknowledge our current moment and offer a framework of sorts, we've adapted some words from a statement originally put out by Rawi, the Radius of Arab American Writers. We're still gathering during an active genocide taking place in Gaza. And the current violence in Palestine is the continuation of decades of colonial violence under Israeli apartheid. And we stand in solidarity with victims of genocide in Sudan and Congo, and with the indigenous peoples on whose unceded traditional homelands were gathered, including Multnomah, Kathlem, Clackamas, Tumwater, and Watwala Cascade bands of the Chinook, as well as the Tualatin Kalapuya and many other recognized and unrecognized indigenous nations of the Columbia River. We stand firmly against anti-Blackness and recognize that police violence and all white supremacist violence must be named and opposed. These forms of violence, along with transphobic violence being legislated in several US states, endanger the lives of trans, queer, gender nonconforming, and non-binary people. So as we begin our event, we want to underscore that none of us are free until all of us are free. And that anti-racist, liberationist, and decolonial struggles are intertwined. And we thank the organizers who wrote and disseminated this statement for their labor and their ongoing activism. And I personally continue to be dismayed by the many literary organizations who have failed and are failing writers at this time. We have some giving opportunities around the space, particularly Gaza funds. There's a QR code and there's a way to connect with Gaza funds, an organization. I don't know what their organizational status is, but it is a way to get funds prioritized to Palestine. A lot of people come to Constellation feeling the urge to contribute, and we invite you to do that either that way, and we also have some QR codes around the room that give ways to materially support indigenous folks in this area, including through land, direct land back. So if you have the impulse to do that, please join us in doing that. And also supporting this amazing local business here gathered with Bishop Miles. And before we get on to the readings any second, we just want to thank our partners and hosts, Lance Cleland with Tin House and Melissa with Bishop and Wild, who are also Council. This is not possible without all of those folks, and it's not possible without all of you. So without further ado, June is going to introduce our first reader, Armen Davoudian.
The mic is
You need your voice work.
Armen, this is the most humble, small, sweet, concise bio that that we've seen, which I think is probably a lot about who you are as someone who is extremely talented and brilliant and obviously humble. I also want to say that I have two biological children who are mixed, mixed race, mixed ethnicity, and they, on their dad's side, are Armenian, and so it is extra special. Um, Every year I try to get them to come, but they're actually now I'm gonna get like intense a little bit. They're actually really activated about what's happening in Palestine. They didn't want to come because they're a little bit emotionally intimidated. Even the president who speaks to this kind of thing. Maybe they'll watch the video, but it's actually special for you to be here as a Tin House resident and as someone of Armenian descent. Armen Davoudian, he, him, is the author of the poetry collection, The Palace of 40 Pillars, which is published by Tin House. Over here, and he's the translator from the Persian of Scotch by House. And he's Isfahan, Iran, and is a PhD candidate in English at Stanford University.
Thank you. For the sweet introduction. I empathize with your children. It's sort of ridiculous that we get to go about our lives and give an ongoing genocide. So thank you. And thanks, Jessica and Armen and Vishal Wild and now technology. Can you all hear me? Okay. Yeah. Raise this a little bit more. Okay. I'm going to read for about 10 minutes. This is called Wake Up Call. I can see my mother, apron over her nightgown, setting the table for breakfast. A stack of lavage steaming at the center. Honey and milk skim, feta with fruit. Chickpea and chicken mash, dusted with cinnamon. I can see my father, already in his coveralls and cap, filling a cup to the brim with hot tap water, and emptying it into another cup, and emptying that cup into another, until all three are warmed for tea. I can hear a kettle whistling and pull the covers tight around my head against the coming light. For any moment now, they will open the door and lift the covers and find that I'm not there. Thanks for not clapping with poems. I mean that genuinely. I tend to have a lot of unfortunate puns in my poems. The title of this poem is one. It's called Coming Out of the Shower. I shut my eyes under the scalding scream, scrubbing off last night's dream, when suddenly I hear your voice again, as though it caught in the clogged drain and was sent bubbling back up from the other world where you're not my mother. This time, it's really you. I'm really here. I blink. You do not disappear. Dad left, you say, to shower at the shop, so I don't need to stop just yet. And yet I do, unable to resume old customs, unlike you. In a one bath, 4-person household, we learn what we mustn't see, growing in time, so coolly intimate with one another's silhouette behind the opaque frosted shower screen that once more stands between us two. While at the mirror you apply foundation and concealer, I wash out my hair with water shampoo, which means I'll smell like you all day. Mama, I shout, I'm coming out. And as you look away, I knot around me tight your lavender robe de chambre, cinching my waist, and clamber out of the tub, taking care not to step outside the cotton mat and drip on the cracked floor you've polished with such zeal where we're in each tile. Yet you forgive this village or forget. What else will you love me despite? This poem recalls an encounter my mother and I had with the morality police in Iran, which are who are in charge of enforcing the hijab rules, and it's called Vice Squad. When the black van pulled over, my hand was in yours. They thought I was your lover. My hand was in yours. When she yanked up your headscarf, when you fell to the ground, when the lights loomed above her, my hand was in yours. When they marched us here, when we crossed or drowned in your namesake river, my hand was in yours. A grown man, my son, Binamus, Haram, lest the faithful discover, my hand was in yours. When old Jolfa was burning and drunk on fear, we are still hungover. My hand was in yours. You were the wife of Lot. I was the salt of your body. Though I'm not a believer, my hand was in yours. Who speaks of the Armenians? Let our gravestones crumble so they can uncover. My hand was in yours. Time check.
Take your time, you're good.
So thank you. I grew up in Iran in an Armenian community, and we spoke Armenian at home and Persian in school. So this poem references that. It's called Cheat Sheet. In my all-boys school, they're all dumber than me. I sit in the back and read André Gide, inside the elements of chemistry. I draw a naked girl with pointy breasts for my classmates, who fold her into a plane and fly it across the room. For the midterm, I make a cheat sheet in Armenia, which our Persian teachers cannot read. When the others leave, I meet with a friend to study. Behind the stacks, he unbuttons his uniform and then lies down, leaning over his body like Ali Baba over the thieves' treasure. I copy out the answers on his chest, but what I know even then is too much pleasure. The poem makes reference to a medieval Persian romance. It's a tragic love story between Layli and Majnun. Majnun's name means possessed or maniac in Arabic. Facing pages. Reading a parallel text tragedy, Persian and English on opposite sides, like lovers whom an ancient grudge divides. I think of gentle Mr. Javadi, copying the cloudy verse out in white as I followed with blue meanings where he led, and we alternated, trying to keep straight. Till the blackboard was striped. Like the bedspread, I sweated my pent-up love out on each night, then lay there with my hands unwashed, and read the story of Majnun's forbidden love, sent him roaming deserts in search of the sweet beloved he would never reach. When I closed the book, two tongues touch. I'm going to end the newer part of the book. It also refers to the Yin Majnun myth. Layli's name means night in Arabic, and it was also the name of my ex's cat. This poem is dedicated to Layla the cat. 3 nights, and thank you all again. 3 nights. It's morning where I was born, but night unravels here in the Western Hemisphere. Reveries of return. Always the same old story. Here, there, now, then, love, pain. You'll never go home again. It will always be tomorrow in the country of the past, where a tyrant breaks his fast. There's time yet left to fight. This is the first night. And the night that's only mine, leather, jasmine, and wine. As my face lies abreast the sunset in your chest, or nuzzles your armpit, semen, sweat, and spit, mullah and wartablet, my God is my bed. Majnun and Majnun, let's sleep in until noon. Let flesh block out the light. This is the second night. And at the foot of the bed, the third night rests its head up against his paws. Lael, who defies the laws of Ejh, Amor, romance, like us a bundle of wants, wears like us no pants. Sleeps neutered and alone, may yet live many months. Let me die today. Let there never be light. This is the point of me.
There are a couple more here.
Let's hear it one more time for Armen Davoudian. I'm going way off script in introducing our next reader. Erin, in capacity as editor of Poetry Northwest, former, put on one of the best readings I've ever been to. It was like my very favorite reading for a long, long time with Alan Chamlau, Javier Cavazos, and Christine Robbins. And me. But it was seriously life-changing. It was a life-changer. It was amazing. And so I'll introduce Erin, then I'll keep talking. So born in New Mexico and raised in Nebraska and Colorado, Erin Malone is the author of 2 full-length collections, Site of Disappearance, finals for the National Poetry Series, and here tonight, back there, and Hover, as well as a chapbook, What Sound Does It Make? The recipient of grants and fellowships from Artist Trust for Culture, Jack Straw, and the College Council of the Arts, Erin taught in the Seattle Arts and Lectures Writers in the Schools program, served as editor of Poetry Northwest, and now works as a bookseller. And she lives on Bainbridge Island in Washington State with her husband, novelist Sean Wong, and their sweet terrier, Bee. I love this book so much. It's one of my favorite books of this last year, and as soon as I read it, I was like, oh, I can't wait to have Erin come for constellation. So
without further ado, welcome Erin Malone.
Thank you, Jessica. I have to confess that microphone's making me nervous. Can you hear me all right? Okay. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, June. I am so excited to be reading here with you and with Charity, and thank you for having us. Before I get started, is this on?
Yeah.
Is it working? Okay,
Yeah.
as long as you're good. Yeah. Before I get started, I have written down this little script just because I have to tell a story. And if I forget the story, then you'll be reading the poems and you'll be a little bit lost. So I have to give you the parameters. So the background for this book, it's a memoir in verse that brings together 3 separate stories. The first story is my brother's death in childhood. He was 11 years old and he died of congenital heart disease, natural death, tragic though it was. The second story is that on the day that my brother died, a missing paper boy was found. This was in a small community in Bellevue, Nebraska, of about maybe 25, 30,000 people. It's kind of one of those sleepy bedroom towns, you know, you hear like things like this don't happen. Stuff like that, well, they do. And the paper boy was found, coincidentally, he and my brother were buried next to one another. Their obituaries were together in the newspaper. And then another boy was taken later that same season. So there was a manhunt going on while my family was grieving. The third story in the book is about how when I was parenting my son, when he became the age that he was approaching adolescence, and he became the age of my brother and those boys. And I started to remember everything that I had forgotten. So that's the story here. And I won't talk too much between the poems because now that you know that, I think you're good to understand these. Biography. My brother was born blue and quiet, not unlike the sky, and like the sky he lived exposed. Blueberry mouth, blue eyes, his heart tied in a bow, river threading his wrist, a slow river, a lazy boat, his heartbeat, his echo lived, his name scribbled in my books, his hop, snap, graph on the loop of our neighborhood trail loved me, his leg brace, his bracelet warning, labels, his sirens, his strokes, he lived, his freckled skin, his surgeons, his open heart, his staples, his scars, his tracks, this sky, he lived for 11 years, he lived, and then martial arts. At the start of every lesson, the teacher asks, "What's your best defense in a dark alley?" Upstairs, our son swings his legs, kicking neatly like a clock at the quarter hour, kick, kick, punch into the teacher's palms, while we wait in the bar below, knees touching, watching the news with the sound off. Someone is wailing, but the sound has left her body. Don't go down the dark alley. The kids stomp, and behind the bar, the bottles chime, a tremble that ripples back to the center of itself. Sirens pulse across the woman's face, the yellow tape, a border keeping what no one wants to know. My right knee against your left, a small pressure we've built our house around. Everything I'm afraid of, I'm about to name. And I should say that I forgot to tell you, this this book was published almost 40 years to the day that these events happened. It was kind of one of those very weird coincidences that I didn't even realize, my publisher set the date, and then the book came out and I was reading from it and I thought, well, this is almost too much, This is a poem called Ghosts. My brother died in September. He was born and died in September. My son was born in September. Beneath a cloud shape on the ground, September leaves trembling, the sound of birds. Before the sound of birds opens the sky, a small mouth gust standing in for a curtain. On this day in history, this poem uses archival research, or I was doing archival research when I was writing this poem, and so there are lines that are in italics if you see the text. Those are lines that are taken directly from newspaper accounts. On this day in history, September 21st, 1983, crucial wreckage is recovered in the Sea of Japan, while closer to home an unheard of summer freeze, 8 degrees at sunrise, means failure to potato crops, futures drift lower, and area searchers find the body of the paper boy missing since Sunday. The neighbor lady makes us pancakes, a little sugar dusted over them. We are still preserving the scene. It's Wednesday, a school day. I'm trying to get ready. In Beirut, one shell strikes a garden gate and another hits the swimming pool. There has been substantial damage. When my brother in a hospital room, the phone rings, the neighbor turns her back to me. Time widens to a dial tone. Let's see. I forgot to bring my phone up here with me, so watch me Okay. This poem is called The Returned. They've come through the rain with leaves up to their shoes, hungry, popping cabinets open and shaking the cereal boxes. They eat the last of everything. They don't wonder if the fish at the bottom of its blue pebble bowl is asleep or dead. Nothing is dead. Like the insides of teacups, they gleam. Never drowned or hunted, they have no wounds on their bodies. They are where they left off. So how can we explain our constant longing for touch, following and kneeling at doors closed to us, wanting to know what can't be told, faces pressed to keyholes, each room a diorama, the dressers, homes, and the little shelves. Okay, I have to do one poem that sort of explains everything, I guess. Where is it here? So I actually was given a writing residency in Bellevue, Nebraska a few years before this book came out, and it really connected me to my childhood landscape. I was able to go back and I was talking about this with Melissa earlier about how the sky and the storms and the light and it really like puts you in your body. And I left this place when I was 14 years old. So for me to go back, really instructive. It couldn't have written these poems without it. So this is called Archive, and this is when I really got into the archive and was able to. I was very surprised to find out that the paper boy's obituary was right next to my brother's. I didn't know that until I saw it in the paper. And the epigraph here is from Chase Twitchell. You can't translate something that was never in a language in the first place. I took my son to kindergarten. I walked him to school. I let him walk while I watched from the window, and in that quiet, chewed a nest. My questions as yet without residence marked me. my body covered in hives brought to light. Whatever begins, begins with demand. In order to rest, must first be examined. Thousands of miles in easterly direction, a train and I kept time. Between the radio silences, ringing connected the side of one state to another. Because we are a river town, it is natural to start at the river. Mouth of my childhood, I walked through the meadow, the cemetery, the tree farm, a middle school hall at the bell, pushed by, sidelined. My nickname was Mouse. Overheard, a drill. Make yourself as small as possible. Protect your neck and throat. And someone counting down. Boy in a hospital bed. Boy in a freckled field. I went because I have a son at home. The day's collection in his pockets. Acorn, pink eraser, leaf. And the sparrow's white eye-ring, an eye-ring of frost. In the frost, star brush, the bruise. Where the field assumed a shape, the searchers found their answer. That's actually not the end of it. That is where I will stop because I manipulate the text in different ways, and I can't really. So I'm just going to finish up with a poem about my son, who is now 21 years old. But in this poem, he's about 11. Translation. Down from the ladder of sleep, my son comes, taller than the night before, and I a fraction smaller, allowed a one-armed hug. Next door, an earth mover is chewing up the scenery, its vibration in the cages of my eyes, and the animals aren't rattled. The knots of his knees disguised in new muscle, he comes down from his loft in solid form and says, do you know trees are 90% air? As if I haven't spent years standing here holding my breath.
Another round of applause for Erin. We didn't comment about how unusual it is. This is our first time to have all three readers.
In a while, maybe it's never happened. I don't
I
remember.
don't think it's ever happened. I don't know, we've had 15. But it's rare. I am not a poet, and so I just feel like I'm witnessing this like magic. Like, how do you do that? It's so incredible. We have another poet. Charity Yoro's here. Charity E. Yoro, she, her, is a steward of words and other beings. Her writing has appeared in the New York Times, The Rumpus, Poets.org, and elsewhere. It has been supported by Regional Arts and Culture Council and Sustainable Arts Foundation. Charity has received a Pushcart Prize and Orson Anthology nominations and residencies with Small Press Traffic and Mineral School. Born, raised, and educated on the east side of Oahu, she currently lives west of the Willamette with her wild, loving family. 10 Cent Flower and Other Territories, the full-length poetry collection, was published with First Matter Press in the fall of 2023.
Kind of impossible to
I'm really honored to be here. I'm a huge fan of Constellation. Y'all just curate such amazing readings each time. Like I feel like it's a warm hug of different, and it's always a different flavor. So I love that. Thank you, Nate. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you. Oh, yeah, crazy. Awesome that around the application. So I'll start with the poem that starts my little collection. It's called Inherit the Wind. And it's for Peter Howe and Waimanolo. I was on a writing residency in Northern California on the coast when I wrote this poem. And at the time, I was pregnant with my first child and the possibility of parenthood and fear, joy. There's a lot of things going on at that time. At home in Hawaii, there was some land rights movement going on in Waimanalo with my family and community. And so I was feeling pulled to that movement as well as pulled to the roots that I was starting to plant here on the continent. This is Inherit the Wind. This wild coastal grass and lady still head sojourn is the sound I cup my ear against, the song of chipped seashore trumpet, the call to return. I hear the hollow my heel over throng of bush and bee, snare in this unkempt symphony, territory of unmastered language. Brash bird call above head, how these warbled trees unnaturally bend. As mother trout treads upstream, so small our world's rivers and shores were not home to defend. Save the fine rare grains, wooded memory from extraction, each flattened parcel's foamed waves dance defiant, the island's last seaside beach. A wonder how she returns to birth at the mouth of the river, whose new name she can't pronounce. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah.
That's soft. Okay. Thank you. Kind of wanting to read something I don't really read. It's a part excerpt of a series poem in the collection. It's called Trespass, and it's sort of navigating themes of conquest and trespass. So some of the situations are an illicit affair with a married neighbor, white savior volunteerism in Madagascar, and then this excerpt is around attending an all-white woman yoga retreat in which it was rife with cultural exploitation and sort of appropriation. So that's the context for this excerpt. Om Shala Malavids, 7 white women, 3 rows of seats, and 1 precarious parallel parking spot. Den goddess lair, but not a harem. How offensive. Cumin, chia seeds, gut health Nepalese, prayer flag flapping, anti-inflammatory remedy. Recipe exchange mandala, crystalline, sound bath, meditating, singing bowls, burning, greenhouse gases, old goddess. The gardener using Roundup on the dairy, gluten substance-free, range certified, organic, divine, abundance, blessings. Same doctor, lawyer, analyst, real estate agent, activist, vice president. Have you heard of resistant starch? Not a diet, a lifestyle change. But I'm so full, I can't eat another bite. I'm trying to gain weight, actually. You first, I insist, don't. I don't eat in the morning. I don't eat at night. Let's go on a hike. Yoga to deserve our meal. Doesn't that feel great? Eat more. Your ethnic chic accent pillows from New Renaissance. Your hired acupuncturist / astrologist. You're lucky with your beach house. More peace and blessings. I don't normally read that one, so it's. It's a little wrong. That they argue over the shape. She says it's the same as the name of the tea that tastes faintly of barley. And that while they're in the subject, she says mustard greens taste sweet. That in one lifetime, an oyster was a peace offering. That it's the season of dying, but they never know it. Bears shortening their years by hours of lost sleep. That they drove 3 hours in the rain to sit in a hot tub in a hailstorm. That they walked through the whiteness, bare ass, hand in hand. She's always hungry or cold. That when she drinks, the wine warms, but when she sees herself, crimson lips and stained teeth reflected, she realizes she likes everyone else more. That the skin and the shell and the meat are separate things. That she cried when she came and couldn't say why, pulled him closer until she could pull herself together, until he said, I felt that. That all she wants is to slide into his runner sweats and lay between the carpet of his thighs. That all she wants is a home shaped like a letter she learned once, not the first, but the most significant sound. That despite herself, she lifts her arm as if to swim across the bank of snow. That she forgets most times her gestures don't translate here. That the navigation will lie, that the flurries will melt wet, that the tires are afraid of losing what they think they have captured between their creases. That love is sometimes traction. The passage through suspended snow ornaments can be consolation. That consolation can be celebration. That celebration can be silence. And that the seasons may fade into each other without warning. That the thawing can be startling. A red bulb that pops up to alert them. They're not there yet. But she howls at the moon, and a song she wasn't prepared to hear rose in response. Sort of realizing as I read more about my work how neat everything ends, and it's a little frustrating. To me, I think the next piece, the next collection is not going to be as neat. This poem is called Gift Statement, and it's a pandemic poem. It's my poem I affectionately call The Long Question. I'm thinking about what you said, Erin, about writing down your fears or what you're afraid of. And I sort of felt that if I wrote all my post-pandemic anxiety into one prose poem or haiku poem, that it would go away. And that's not the case. I don't think it ever goes away. What if the soft spot sinks? The French press we bought for the friends who never came on dark roofs from the stone. The skin breaks, or worse, the rubber. Google starts answering our hysteria with a single smirk emoji. The translation is wrong. The numbers lie. 38 plus 13 weeks is not long enough to run you. It's always already 8 a.m. The microbes on the doorknob, the cat's hair, the rodent dust from the crawl space infiltrate. The blooming magnolias rot the new plank siding. The yellow caution tape extends past the children's swing set. It rains for over 40 days. 4 years becomes forever. The epidural is irreversible. Our peeling fingers forget sex. Sorry is better than safe. The question is the only situation. Provides no room for protection. The water boils to an empty house. If I'm sorry, promise me your first words are no apology. And the last poem I'll read is Her Inheritance, and it begins with two epigraphs. The first is by Sarah Borjas. It says, I wish my poems could save us from our parents' childhood. And Erica Hunt, sooner or later, catches up. 1/2 of 1/3 of the axis of evil, a carcinogenic preference, acquired taste for plastic, streaming away through the color blue, broken coral, a collection of smooth rocks to lay on an unmarked grave, soft nails that tear at the quick, hurried step across intersections to an indifferent greeting. No one knows how to pronounce your name. Fascination, flame, and glass, and sand, and tail, and chasing flight. Pointer finger fixed toward the sky. A thrice history of fleeing. 1/4 refinance. 1/4 reverse mortgage. 1/4 rented with roommate. 3/4 on the spectrum of unemployed, bill unpaid. Under sheets of red marked paper, birthed as a balanced ode, decrepit credit score, before even learning how to count. Itchy, ikahi. What to say when a stranger offers candy? I say salamat po, mama.
All right. Woo, that was awesome. I'm so happy to be here. There are all these books back on the table. It's not often that everyone has a book, actually, either. So everyone has a book here tonight. I'm excited. And books surround us as well. If you're able to, please join us upstairs. We have snacks and drinks, or hang around down here, and maybe you can get a signed copy. Thank you for being here. We hope you come back.
I know those people. Still yeah, every time you get out. Oh, 100%.
I saw my list.
Invite everybody.
I don't know. I
Oh, you know, I know that you know critique. Okay, yeah, I did know that.
You were that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's. I gotta stop.